All right, guys, let's talk about auto insurance in this video. Now, with the different components of insurance, right? We understand there's the premium and there's the coverage. There's also the deductible. Okay, so if you are in an accident in your car, generally speaking, so you're paying your premium, you keep paying that basically forever. But if you're in an accident, there's a deductible. The deductible is the amount that you pay out of pocket and you cover the first expenses up to that limit. So if you have a $500 deductible and the damage is $1,500, you will pay $500, the first $500, and then the insurance company covers the rest. Okay, so that deductible will affect the premium. If you have a lower deductible, the premium you pay is going to be higher, right? Because the odds the insurance company pays out are higher, right? Because you're paying less out of pocket. You can increase the deductible and end up paying a lower premium because odds are you're going to cover any damage below that deductible limit, okay? And they won't have to pay out. So they will lower your premium commensurately. So the deductible is what you pay if there is a claim, okay? If you file a claim. Now, there are a number of different coverages here. I'm not going to talk about all the different types of auto insurance coverage. Again, work with an agent to make sure that you have appropriate coverage for your situation and talk through the different options. There may be great coverages out there. Some states require it, others don't. So I'm not going to talk super in detail about all of that, but I do want to cover some of this. Now, comprehensive coverage is essentially it's paid out in the event of hailstorms, theft, flooding, right? Some of these other kind of things that can happen to your vehicle that can seriously damage it. Comprehensive coverage comes in and they will take care of it. Collision coverage obviously is regarding accidents, right? An actual collision into an object or property or another car. And that coverage, right, determines how much they will cover out of that. Some might offer replacement value. So they might calculate the actual value of your car and give you the replacement value. They're not just going to give you money to go buy a brand new car. They'll replace the value of what you lost, more or less, if it's totaled, or they can pay to make the repairs. Okay. There's also medical payments coverage. So if you get into an accident and anybody, any passengers that are in the car, if they need to go to the hospital, maybe somebody broke a bone, they have to go to the ER, they get x-rays, medical payments coverage can cover those costs instead of using health insurance. Okay. So, you might have people in your car that are not part of your family that don't have your health insurance. Maybe you're carpooling with, your child and some of their friends, and one of them gets injured. Medical payments can help cover their injuries so their insurance doesn't have to pay for it. Okay. Again, some states require that, others don't. They have different limits. So just check with your current state. Auto liability, these next ones are types of coverage I feel like are overlooked a lot and can really be financially devastating if something were to happen. One of those is auto liability coverage. Now, there are some coverages that are going to replace or make whole what was lost. Liability coverage comes in when somebody sues you. Okay, if you are liable for injuries or damage above and beyond what your insurance will cover. And so, you always see the personal injury attorneys, right? You might see their commercials or their billboards. It's a big business, right? If there's an accident, they know they can get a lot of money based on a lot of different factors, but they're going to file a civil lawsuit and claim, for damages and for liability. And they're going to try and get more money beyond what the insurance company wants to pay. Okay, so that's what those attorneys are out there to do. They're out there to get as much money as possible for your claim. And they make a piece of it, so it's very lucrative for them. But auto liability coverage, okay, there's bodily injury and property damage. Bodily injury is in case you get injured. Maybe you sustain somewhat significant injuries, or you get into an accident and somebody else sustains significant injuries. They end up suing you, or you sustain the injuries. Either way, you can increase this coverage amount to get more money if your situation calls for it. So you can raise it. Probably you should get at least $100,000 per individual, $300,000 per accident for bodily injury coverage. Property damage, probably at least $35,000, right? That's it. You could run into a house, you could run over a fence, you could damage property. all types of things, right? So probably you can increase that for not very much additional premium. Uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist coverage. This is essentially, let's say you get into an accident, it's the other person's fault, but they actually do not have insurance. Okay. Most states require it legally, but some people still don't have it. If they don't have insurance, your company needs to pay out. And you might have serious injuries, right? Beyond just the repair of the car and things like that. You might have serious medical problems, ongoing chronic medical problems. If they don't have insurance, it's not going to cover it. You need your insurance to cover it for you. Okay. And the same thing here with underinsured motorists. Maybe they have enough to where their insurance will take care and pay for damages, the actual car, but not enough to cover liability, not enough to cover long-term effects, maybe health effects. And so upping your coverage to make sure that no matter what kind of insurance coverage the other party has, you have enough insurance coverage that your company will pay out and compensate you for any damages that were sustained in an accident. Okay, so that again, $100,000 per individual, $300,000 per accident. Typically, that's around the max. And if you increase coverages, you're going to see your premium go up. Okay, because it costs, it's a higher risk to the insurance company. They have the higher potential of paying out on that type of a policy or paying out more money, right? They're not capped. It's a higher cap. And so their premiums might go up. If they do, you can always shop around and just get brand new fresh rates. Usually you can lower them again that way. Another thing that you can do is you can actually increase your deductible and say, hey, right now I want to increase my coverages, but I have a $500 deductible. Now my premium is a lot more. You can increase your deductible to like $1,000, for example, and your premium might come back down to more of what you had before. So you might not pay a whole lot more out of pocket for these additional coverages. So a lot depends, right? There's a lot of factors. You just have to go out and get quotes and see how that works out. Raising the deductible, by the way, would work as long as you're confident you have the cash flow to support it, right? You have an emergency fund on hand. If something happened, you could pay the deductible, no problem, right? If you don't, then that might not be the best option at this time. But it is one way to navigate ongoing costs of insurance. Now, I just have a quick anecdote to illustrate this point. I knew somebody, they got into an accident. It was actually a big semi-truck kind of pulled out in front of them onto a road, and they just ran straight into it. It was determined that the trucker was at fault. And so they actually got an attorney. This individual in the accident, it was her and her friend. They sustained serious injuries. She broke multiple bones, tore ligaments in her legs, broke a bone in her arm. Her back was messed up, right? And so the insurance company was going to pay out enough to cover the damages. Okay, obviously, if their car was totaled, it was going to pay out to replace the car and pay for the medical bills. And then that was pretty much it. They were going to stop. So they got an attorney and worked with them, and they determined that no, you are going to have, it's not just immediate medical bills that you're going to have issues with, right? You had a couple surgeries, you had to set some bones, things like that. You're going to have ongoing health problems based on this. You're going to have a lot of physical therapy. There's a lot of pain and suffering involved. And you're going to probably have to get surgeries again later on, right? It's just your body's more worn down. Plus you have time missing because of all these injuries. You can't work. So that's loss of income and on and on and on. And they multiply it out across a lifetime and so forth. And so they ran, their complicated analysis, and they took the insurance company to court, and they ended up getting almost $2 million in a settlement to basically fund all of the ongoing costs for healthcare that this individual is going to have to sustain. And she did end up getting multiple surgeries, and sometimes they weren't right and they didn't fix it right. So I had to go back in and do the surgery again. And then she had to go to physical therapy again. It was really, really big mess, a lot of pain and suffering. And she wasn't really able to work for a long time. And her ability to work is actually hampered based on the injuries that she has. So the lawyers got a pretty big settlement set aside for this individual. So it can be very helpful, but making sure you have the right coverage you can help avoid going through that hassle. You can make sure that you are getting the amount that you deserve and that you're covered in case you have to pay out on somebody else. And if there's lawsuits towards you, that you have a large amount of coverage that can protect you in those cases. Okay, so that wraps up auto insurance. We will see you guys in the next video.
Understand your coverage before you ever need it.